Actually, it's a little too moist in here. Dang, hopefully it doesn't mess with the audio. Actually, let me close this vent. Alright. Hopefully that doesn't mess with the audio, having my air conditioner on, but it's way too hot today not to have it on. But I wanted to make this video for you guys really fast. I was having this thought today, listening to just like multiple podcasts, just listening to like multiple podcasts today, and just having like a lot of like ideas and thoughts circulating in my brain. I wanted to make a video where I talked about this idea about risk management, or the idea of taking risk. Because at the end of the day, and at the beginning of the day, everything is an idea. Everything that you do starts with a thought. It starts with the idea to do it. And it's crazy because I was also listening to a podcast of a guy talking about how everything is technically predetermined. Like he was talking about how like we quite literally live in a simulation. His name is Tom Ballou, or I don't even know how to say his last name, but he was talking about how like we live in a simulation, and how like and he was basically just destroying this idea of free will, because even like physics, the laws of physics tells us that what you did today was determined by what you did yesterday. And it was crazy because I also heard Alex Hormozi talk about how your thoughts and decisions align with what you receive rewards from. Meaning, you're not going to do something knowing that there's pain there. And that's why I wanted to talk about risk management, why I wanted to talk about this idea of taking risk. Because taking the risk doesn't feel rewarding when you fall. But at the end of the day, and at the beginning of the day, when you seek to continue to take the risk despite getting an uncanny outcome, that's what leads to long-term success. It's little bitty failures one day at a time. And I love to make jujitsu references, because when I started training jujitsu, it's what connected the dots and made it make sense for me. Especially when you get on the topic of neuroplasticity, I think is what it's called, creating like new pathways for your brain to learn. Which is another thing I learned from one of my I guess mentors, you could call it, for jiu-jitsu. It's this idea that putting yourself in new situations is the only way to learn how to get better at doing the thing that you're doing. Or putting yourself in new situations is the only way you learn how to develop and learn the thing that you didn't know before that you needed in order to become successful doing the thing that you're doing. So to give you an example, I could pull off a rear naked choke. I could probably submit someone who's brand new to jiu-jitsu, even though I'm a white belt. I could probably submit somebody respectively within a minute. Whereas, and that's someone who's like brand new. Whereas if it was someone who's a black belt, there's no chance at all I'd be able to submit them. And the reason being is because they've had more time to develop their game, whereas somebody who's brand new has no time at all. So it goes to show, and it goes to say, that based off where they have been will determine the outcome of the training session, or the fight, the battle, the match, whatever the case may be. And it just goes to show that if that person hadn't put themselves in the situation multiple times to not be rear naked choked, then the probability of it happening goes down tremendously. Whereas someone who's put themselves in the position to be rear naked choked tons of time over a larger time span it's extremely harder for them to be rear naked choke because they've been exposed to it so many times that they could see it coming before you even try to do it. And I think an arm bar would probably be like an easier example to use, because arm bars are a lot easier to see coming than rear naked chokes, because in order to do a rear naked choke, you got to get on their back first. And, you know, taking it back is, I'm trying to think about whether or not you can kind of like see that. Oh, it just depends. If someone is like in side mounts, you can kind of just like expect, you know, them to kind of like take your back, because that's kind of like the, or arm bar you. You know, you just never know. But what I'm trying to say is that the longer you do something and the more you put yourself in position, I don't want to say like risk it all, because you don't want to just like be like, you don't want to put your whole life at risk. But I'm saying like taking the smart risk, right? Investing in the stock market. I'm not even talking about day trading. If that's something you want to do, go ahead, but it's extremely risky. Investing in the stock market over time, you're technically risking your money, because you're giving your money away to somebody else to use it to hopefully help their own business perform better. You're giving your money away. You're risking your money. But over time, the longer you're in the market and you watch the market move, the more you learn about it, whether you're losing money or making money. The longer you're in a relationship, the longer you're risking your, how do I say this? The ability for you to find where the right person. The more you're risking your time and your youth and your life with a person that might not be the right, that might be the wrong person, might be the right person. Hopefully I'm using the right examples. The longer you're at a job that you hate, the more you're risking your time doing something that you don't enjoy. You're risking your precious life. The thing that is the most precious thing that we can't get back, which is your time. The longer you're risking it on things that don't really matter to you, what am I trying to say? The longer you're risking, let me just use a different example, because I don't know where I was going with that. But all I'm trying to say is, do whatever you can to make the necessary risk that's going to lead you to living the most fulfilled life that you possibly can. Because in the beginning, taking the risk may seem like, in the beginning, man, I cannot believe I used to be one of them. Like, that's crazy. I pray and hope those young men are safe though. But I used to be just like that, riding my motorcycle everywhere, crazy. Hard to believe, but risk management. Do everything you can to take the necessary risk that is going to lead to you living the most fulfilled life that you possibly can live. I feel like I'm in like a deja vu moment right now. Like I dreamed that I was making this video. But take the necessary risk, because long term you're not going to regret making the decision, even if you failed at it. You're not gonna regret losing $100 on something that you believed in, because at the end of the day, you're either going to succeed or you're going to learn. And I love to continue to repeat the notion that life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. Every single failure that comes from a risk that you take is just going to teach you how to elevate even more, even though it might not feel like it. One of the worst, I guess this is some anecdotal evidence that I could use. One of my biggest mistakes was the amount of time it took me to start another business venture after the first one I had ever done, which was I started a clothing brand when I was 20 years old, and it didn't work out. And I can honestly say, I used to always make the excuse to say it didn't work out because I ran out of money. But that's not necessarily true looking back. It didn't work out because I felt like it wasn't going to work out. So I stopped making excuses to make the money to pour into it. That was a big mistake that I made. Well, that was a big mistake that I made, was not pouring money into the thing that I had once believed in. And I stopped believing in it because I hadn't yet turned a profit yet. Big mistake. You know what I mean? But if I didn't make that mistake, I wouldn't be where I am now, and having that experience to be able to say this, to give you that story. And a mistake that I made was waiting so long to do it again, and then fail at that, which was I started making colognes, failed at that for the same reason that I failed with the clothing brand. And then again, taking so long to start another business adventure, which was making digital products and selling digital products. Failed at that for a completely different reason. It was because the amount of money that I made when I made my first offer, it was like I made like $60 when I made my first offer. When I compared $60 to the paychecks I get at work, I was all the work I had done compared to the work I do like at my job, and how much I made. I was like, ain't no way in hell, bro. Like, ain't no way I'm about to keep pouring money in, doing all this work just to make $60. Didn't make sense to me. Another mistake that I made, because if I had just made another offer, then made another offer, and then kept making offers, it would have all worked out. But if I didn't have that experience, I wouldn't be where I am now, being able to tell the story of the mistakes that I made. It's not even like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to end up writing another ebook one day. I'm going to end up, writing some more digital product, getting, the coaching business started, getting things started and doing more things, having more like adventures that I go on so that I can have more stories to tell. And yeah, more stories to tell you guys about my failures, because honestly I'm not even scared to admit them, because they weren't even failures when I think about it. Everything was a success because I got something from it. That's the point. That's the point I'm trying to get to. That's the message I'm trying to convey, is that nothing is technically a failure. Everything is a success, even though it might not feel like it, because you didn't get the result that you intended on getting, but you got something from it. But you have to risk something in order to get there. You have to plant the seed in order to get there, not knowing what's going to come out of the ground. And that's like an important point that I want you guys to pick up on when you're going on your journey of entrepreneurship, of building your social presence, investing, relationships. You want to become more social. You're trying to get in the gym. You're trying to get your diet right. Whatever the journey is you're going on, you're just now, coming to Christ. You're about to get you're trying to get tattoos. Whatever journey you're going on, understand that in the beginning, it's going to be an incredible risk. But in the end, whether or not you feel like you failed or not, there's always a lesson that you learn from it. And I always want you to remember, you either succeed or you learn. You never fail, you never fall. And even if you do, or you feel like you've fallen, understand that you can always get back up. Something I would always say is like, I'll stumble, but I'll never fall, right? And like, I would always say that, but sometimes I think it's better to just go ahead and fall than to stumble and not fall, because in stumbling, you never experience the pain of falling. But when you experience the pain of falling, you'll make sure you never do it again. And here's another jiu-jitsu reference. If I shoot for a takedown, if we're wrestling or whatever, and I shoot for a takedown, it probably take like one or two times of somebody like putting me in a guillotine for me to realize that when I shoot for the takedown, don't shoot with my head down, but to shoot with my head up, because it's a lot harder to get put in a guillotine, or it's hard to get choked out from a guillotine when your head is up. And then after a couple of times you doing that, then you learn, when I shoot with my head up, turn the corner, which is going to help me have an even more effective takedown, right? But it takes time of repetition, sometimes being choked out, sometimes not, over and over and over and over again, getting the reps in order to figure out how to properly do it. And even then, there's always going to be a giant. There's always going to be someone that's better than you at the thing that is probably going to be able to destroy you. And even in those situations, you get back up and you keep going. That's it. That's all I got for you guys. About to go inside. Had a long day at work. A little 12-hour shift. Delivering packages all day. But, you got to do what you got to do to provide. So, yeah. Until next time, you guys.